si vous voulez bien nous faire l'honneur de...
And I would like to hand over by Christian Eckert, Minister of Budget.
Mesdames, Messieurs les parlementaires, Monsieur le Président, Charles
Dear
COPPOLANI,
parliamentarians, Mr. Chairman, dear
Mesdames,
COPPOLANI, friend,
Messieurs,
members of Arjel, ladies and gentlemen,
permettez-moi avant toute chose de remercier et de féliciter le député
allow me to thank and congratulate Christian HUTIN and Charles COPPOLANI for having organized this symposium. A spectacular success. And significant success, apparently. Don't think that an event on gambling online, ever since the market was open 5 years ago, has in fact met with such a success. You've gathered along this day the major players of this sector, the regulator, the experts, the people in charge of the games, representative of the various sectors, horse racing, sporting authorities. I'm forgetting a number of them, which will certainly have to apologize. I must say that coming at the end of the symposium to bring the conclusions means that you have not heard all what was said during this intense day. Just being with you, small hour, half an hour, makes me hear the messages conveyed, made me hear the messages conveyed. And I'm rather humble in saying that these are not simple questions. They require time, which is not the internet type of time, as I referred to earlier. I also see around me friends, MPs, senators, among the players which I have met here. Gaëtan Gors, Mr. Grunico, Eric Verge, François Trucy, evidencing the interest shown by the MPs and senators for those who looked into the opening of the market and remember the harsh discussions in which some I have just mentioned were very much involved. And this has been the case of Valérie Fourneron. Now, the flame has been around since 2010 with François Trucy, who in fact relinquished his mandate of senator, but is still at the head of a number of working groups. The interest of this dossier is still very vivid, as raised by the question of Dr. Bita, who's helped organizing this symposium. We see other initiatives from Christian HUTIN. The Assessment and Control Committee of the National Assembly, we call it CEC at home, has taken this question of gambling in its hands. You've been explained the reasons for it. I have no advice to give, but I would like these type of missions, or this mission in particular, to be further expanded, scanning the largest possible sectors, each in their his or her parliamentarian mission with different centers of interest. This is the commitment by Régis Joigny, Jacques Miard, who's also very well known in the horse racing sector. Using the net revenues from the games is important, but the question must be raised, and President COPPOLANI referred to it upon several occasions. Yes, the question must also be tackled by parliamentarians, and I will come back to this later, because a number of decisions, orientation require legislative actions, and the regulator over the last 5 years has framed the practice of online gambling, or gaming, so only the regulator can pull down the walls. I heard someone mentioning this concept. I would also like to pay tribute to the journalists, experts who will provide an echo, in fact, within the public of this symposium. I am with you tonight because I would like to recall, as a Secretary of State Budget, among my responsibilities, regulation is one of my responsibilities, something our citizens do not know. It applies to daily life of millions of French people who every day buy a game, lotto, bingo, horse racing, on net with all these sites that are agreed by Arjel. And I find it is of particular interest to see to it that this part of my responsibilities is fulfilled. It applies to essential challenges, public financing, as was referred to, new products, Française des Jeux, taxation on games, but of a public order, as was referred to, money laundering, a major item. And by the way, jihad movements or terrorism include that element of money laundering, because money is used, and when we cross-reference some information, we can have access to other information, and administrations are working on this topic, showing that there are low-level signals, but adding up low-level signals may give you a stronger warning. Social, societal challenges, as has been identified. We've had disasters in the families, young teenagers under of age, excessive behavior, public health problems, addiction, among others, are essential topics which we must all have in mind to really come with a balanced policy between the various centers of interest around this problem. I would first like to make a brief recap after 5 years of opening of the online games market. Presents, in fact, what we did since 2010. Arjel has played a central role in the effective definition of this balanced and secure gambling offer. Arjel is contributing to further thinking on the economic development of this sector, and this symposium is quite in evidence. Arjel has been committed to its essential mission to fight illegal offering. It is a technically and legally harsh task, and I will revert to this later. It is indispensable to protect the economic model of the operators, and especially for the health and safety of the players. I would like to thank the chairman, Charles COPPOLANI, for being very much engaged on his mission. Legal offering is very much in the frame, the French market. Arjel has agreed 16 operators who own 29 licenses in 2014. From the investigation of Observatoire des Jeux, we had 2 million French people who played online, 7.3% of the overall players' population. The gross product of online product was 725 million, a plus 6% increase against 2013. The activity, in fact, is very contrasted depending on the sector. We see more and more sporting, gaming events, betting events, especially during the major events, and a stagnation of poker and horse racing betting. The illegal offer is there, even if it only represents now less than 10% of the sector from this observatory of games, who in fact looked into this phenomena in summer of 2013. We see that the illegal side represents quite an interesting share, especially on casino, another game that are excluded from the offering because of their dangerosity and the prevalence, in fact, of online gambling. 1/3 of online gamblers are playing on slot machines with a number of practices, which is the reason why we had one specific sector on gambling incorporated to the 2014 consumer law. And the authority now has additional legal means to fight illegal offering. The ability we have to act has been extended to all types of online money gambling and to advertising these games. This legal offering has been made secure so that people can go directly on the licensed operators, and as when they will have to fight fraud and manipulations if they go on illegal or illicit sites. So in fact, the operators guarantees that their sites are safe to prevent, in fact, losing money in case of default. Regulated online markets also means the operator's responsibility and accountability as much as that of the players. And the 2015 survey by the Observatory has confirmed the crucial importance of a sustainable and accountable gaming for all the games, especially for online gambling, with the risk of specific addiction in view of this constant availability. 16,000 individuals from 16 to 75. Which changes everything. The investigation has highlighted a significant increase of the prevalence of gambling against the previous investigation in 2010. 56%, hence a 10% increase.
Now, in itself, this increase is not a problem as long as it's along the lines of the games model that we have expected. It should be entertaining, moderate, responsible, and lucrative. Now, the research tells us that it is indeed not a model of fragility. Excessive gambling actually concerns only a limited population of about 200,000 people, and that number has remained very stable. So moderate risk, in fact, is becoming increasingly preoccupying. It concerns 5% of the population as opposed to 1% just about 5 years ago. And this increase might be because of an increase in technology, you see, and therefore you have a more efficient research. And what's more, there's also an epiphenomenon that we seem to be forgetting about. Arjel is, of course, the first line to fight against this sort of trend. So the right practices distributed by Arjel has brought down this kind of gaming from 8.3% to 6.3%, and this is as far as the excessive gamblers are concerned on the internet. Now, self-assessment last April done by Arjel has done a lot of good, and we feel that they've really made a lot of progress. So this is a self-awareness tool, and it was also a way of assessing whether or not others around the players are at risk too. In the last 5 years, as far as the integrity of games, it's something that we've been looking at. So for 5 years now, there were no abnormalities insofar as sport betting online was concerned. Pierre Caner spoke to us about all the initiatives taken to fight against any kind of manipulation and rigging in terms of sports competition. On the 18th of November 2014, France signed up a charter against any rigging of sports events, and that provides for the creation of a national platform in charge of collecting and distributing relevant data and information. Arjel and Française des Jeux have signed a convention restoring a method of informing each time there's any kind of atypical or suspect behavior, so as to come to an agreement between regulator and operator, so to fight against illicit gambling and also to keep an eye on behavior of gambling and integrity of games. The authority should really play its role efficiently, and that would mean by go via the means of renewing its tools. The government also must play its share, do out its share, and make the legal gaming market more attractive. Let me tell you about the measures that were taken according to the framework of the law on consumption. But I hope we go further. Firstly, the mission, as determined by law of the Arjel, would be to extend and fight explicitly against excessive or pathological gambling. Not because Arjel has been inactive, that just goes to show the self-assessment site has done, but the extension of its mission, of course, has a certain symbolical meaning, and it will have concrete effects. So all data coming in from the operator would be used to improve improve public health in order to identify all the problem players, and not just to control units playing, you see. So it would be also to fight against any kind of swindling, money laundering, etc. And I think Arjel is just the most appropriate body to take preventive action, to do the analysis that's required on the general gambling activity in general and all other operators who are the customers, and not just with one or the other operator who has received his agreement or certification. Its action in this matter will naturally respect legislation on private data and personal data. And it could very usefully go on the basis of research that has been done to help players. Secondly, with a view to preventing excessive gaming, poker players should take advantage of moderated times. Several recent studies have, in fact, demonstrated the efficiency of such a mechanism, which is sometimes even better than the monetary limits that they impose. Now, thirdly, the judicial procedure that Arjel carries out against legal operators should really help in reducing time to market and costs and increase efficiency as far as authorizing Arjel in terms of acting on ISPs and not at the same time against hosting bodies. But unfortunately, often these hosting bodies and hosting sites are often outside of France because the legal site can always change and very quickly move to another hoster. Fourthly, l'Arjel should be able to come to agreements with its other European counterparts in order to have common poker parties organized. And so they should co-regulate via Arjel and another European authority who would be its partner. The possibility of opening European tables would also help to dry up all the illicit gambling, thanks to the improvement of liquidity and therefore of the attractivity of the legal choices in a perfectly safe framework, because this measure was researched with TRACFIN and the services of the Home Ministry. Other measures also should be considered, and we hope that parliamentarians involved in this subject, starting with yourself, dear Christian Eckert, should work hand in hand with Arjel and make your report when required. And this would be entrusting upon Arjel the role of a mediator between the player and operator, a role that the authority has already developed informally as a facilitator. And it would naturally be the right time to strengthen it. The use of prepaid cards and their ruling would also be something that needs to be considered in order to prevent any money laundering risks. Now, I had said at the opportune moment, at the appropriate moment. And you must have wondered, what on earth do I mean by a timely moment? Now, these means could be the law on digital economy or the draft law on new economic opportunities. Undoubtedly, the second one has a more economic dimension, and as each one of you might have noticed, for instance, measures concerning video game competitions that we call e-sport. And that was supported when there was a public consultation regarding the draft resolution on digital law. Now, it just shows how interested citizens are in digital games. And naturally, it does give rise to several other issues regarding protection of minors, fighting against money laundering and addiction, and regulation of operators. So it should be closely appraised by the appropriate services, and Axel Le Maire is doing this directly with Arjel. So the two laws, we also call these legislative vehicles, apparently, or vectors, as you please. Both of them are programmed to happen in the coming months. Now, if the so-called vehicle is not ready in time, then Some people might feel that perhaps the deadline has been fixed too far in time, but anyway, the idea would be not to go beyond the first semester of next year. And now, finally, in conclusion, regarding online operators, one very special one, which is La Française des Jeux. Now, while their business online is part of Arjel's jurisdiction, myself in charge of budget, we feel that their activities should be ruled by Ministry of Finance, particularly online lotteries. A lot of remarkable work has been done by the Consultative Committee on Gaming and Betting, or better known as COGEX, and chaired by Mrs. Gisraud, who carefully and attentively peruses the marketing program and the plan of action for responsible gaming by Française des Jeux. And then she declares what has to be done as far as companies in this field are concerned. This is done in such a way that COGEX can modify or change certain features before they're actually launched if forever they feel that there's a problem regarding addiction in the future. In this field, I would also like to have a better framework in order to allow the proper growth of digitization in gaming. At my request, a clarification work was carried out regarding the regulatory framework. It's underway now, and therefore companies in this field can regularly change their offer and also provide services that would also follow. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, I am not going to forget about the taxation base, a modest contribution that is naturally meant to help the public finance recover. Indeed, a very complex subject. Now, personally, of course, I don't wish to give you any assessment at short term now for reasons of product securing, and because it's such a complex matter. We do know that competition might exist in the tax department, as it does everywhere else. We find, however, that the sector is developing, and in a very significant fashion. And after having thought very hard about it, and not just in these last 18 months since I've been at this job, I have met quite a few of you in other positions here within the National Assembly, and I have no intentions, in the short run at least, to make any changes in this subject. However, that doesn't stop any reflection on the issue. In fact, very well to the contrary, no one is being stopped from thinking it would be against the very nature of man and woman and their nature. Now, fighting against illegal or illicit betting, improving the attractiveness of the legal choice, our aim is exactly the same, and that is to provide French recreational, regulated choice in gaming. So it's up to the government to make sure that this regulation of monopolies, of networks and online gambling be done properly. So this is clearly shared. This point of view is shared by Arjel, considering that there's a lot of competition. And since 2012, we are working very hard at implementing all that we have just spoken to you about, and these are just so many further foundation stones lead towards responsible gaming. Thank you very much for your attention.